And next I would like to introduce Eve Gabel-Frank. And Eve is here with us from Gable Associates. She's an associate at Gable Associates, and she has expertise in environmental and transportation planning, and with a focus on transit planning and GIS, Geographic Information System mapping. So in her work, she focuses on transportation electrification and provides support to the ChargEVC New Jersey Coalition. If you're not familiar with them, ChargEVC includes a diverse group of stakeholders advocating for electrification of the transportation sector. Eve does a lot of research to support comprehensive EV studies, as well as many other functions for ChargEVC, supporting regulatory and policy matters, interacting with state agencies, using her expertise with geographic analysis for studies and projects. The maps that she's helped to create have been used to identify EV opportunities and locations for the charging infrastructure and to help create statewide utility service area demographic profiles. So Eve, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Let me share my screen. That's close enough to full screen. So thank you for the introduction. I don't have to introduce myself again, but I'm Eve Gabel-Frank. I'm here representing the ChargEVC Coalition. I'm going to give an introduction to the new EV law. Andrea touched on it a bit, but I wanted to go through some of the elements and goals that it set, just to set a basis for what the EV landscape looks like right now in New Jersey. So the law was passed in this past January, and it was signed by Governor Murphy. It was passed with bipartisan support. Some of the elements, which I will go into in more detail, is it's working to get more EVs on the road, to increase publicly accessible charging, electrifying fleets, and it put in place the EV rebate program. So putting more EVs on the road. It set a goal to put 330,000 plug-in electric vehicles on the road by 2025. To give you some context, as of December 2019, right before the law was enacted, there were about 30,000 electric vehicles registered in New Jersey. So the rebate program that Andrea Friedman talked about is one of the big tools that they're using to try to really push up those numbers. And as you can see, it sort of incrementally increases how many EVs the state should have on the road. So 2 million by 2035, and then 85% of vehicles sold and leased should be plug-in by 2040. Next, I'm going to talk about the charging infrastructure. So this law set statewide goals for installing charging infrastructure. First, it set a goal for 400 DC fast chargers of at least 150 kilowatts in at least 200 locations by 2025. And it set a separate goal for level 2 chargers to have 1,000 level 2 chargers by 2025. Again, to give you some perspective, there are 328 level 2 charging stations that are compliant with the law in New Jersey right now. So we have a lot to go to reach that goal of 1,000. There are also 65 DC fast charging stations, and the majority of those are not compliant with that 150 kilowatt requirement. So currently we only have 6 charging stations that are compliant with that 150 kilowatt requirement, and we need to get to 200 locations. And as Andrea talked about, the DEP is completely on top of this, installing a ton more level 2 and DC fast charging stations and accelerating this. So with all of that funding, these numbers will really be pushed up in the next few years. next is electrification of fleets. So it really focused on electrification of fleets in two different areas. First is state-owned fleets. It set a goal that 25% of state-owned non-emergency light-duty vehicles, so we're not talking ambulances here, we're talking light-duty vehicles that state employees use to get around, should be plug-in by 2025. And then it increases that incrementally to 100% by 2035. They also set goals for New Jersey Transit, which is exciting to me personally as a transportation planner. Also very exciting because it's one of the last major transit agencies in the country to set some zero emission goals. So with this law, New Jersey Transit has a goal for 10% of its new bus purchases to be zero emission by 2024. And again, that incrementally increases so that by 2032, every new bus that they buy will be zero emission. And finally, everyone is so excited about this that Andrea also spoke about it. So I won't reiterate, but the real exciting piece, the most exciting piece of this law is the EV rebate program. It's the most generous in the country. It's really innovative. It's really exciting. And also, we've already seen that it's working. The BPU was able to announce publicly that since the rebate went into effect in January, about 1,800 applications have come in for the rebate program, which in this time of economic uncertainty is especially impressive. And most of those applications were for that full $5,000. So we're seeing that even in a time when you think that people would not be buying new cars, they're buying electric. So that's really exciting looking into the future. And that is my presentation on the EV law.